And welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, having a discussion with Marcus Kolga. He is a senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute think tank in Ottawa. Marcus, just following up on our previous discussion in the last frame, how can we do a better job in the sanctions to properly weaken Russia, to properly have an impact on their military-industrial complex, do you think?
Well, number one, we shouldn't be issuing exemptions for Canadian companies who continue to rely and continue to buy goods from Russia, as we have with this Russian titanium producing company. In these sorts of cases, it may be understandable, perhaps, in cases where Canadian jobs may be at stake, to continue purchasing those goods. But if that's going to happen, and if we really need those to continue purchasing from Russia in order to maintain those jobs, maybe something that we should be looking at is placing a sanctions tariff specifically on this titanium until companies like Bombardier and Airbus wean themselves off that supply. Maybe it could be something like 300 to 400%. And the proceeds of that could go to supporting Ukraine, its reconstruction, and to allow Ukraine to continue purchasing weapons. But sanctions in general, there is this, sort of the rhetorical impact of imposing sanctions, sort of naming and shaming. There's that has a certain, I suppose, effectiveness. I think 2.5 years on with this war, that effectiveness may have been lost already. Where we could be doing a lot better. And I should say that Canada's sanctions teams at Global Affairs is doing, overall, a very good job of identifying targets for our sanctions and certainly working with our allies. But we need to be doing a much better job of enforcing those sanctions. And I think that there are a lot of individuals and companies that are slipping through the cracks. And if we don't enforce those sanctions, then those sanctions lose their effectiveness. And so I think we could be doing a much better job of that, including these, Kremlin enablers, proxies, and influencers who are operating in this country, amplifying Russian disinformation and propaganda. Some of these people continue to appear on platforms like RT. They travel to Russia and meet with Russian officials. Some of this activity could be subject to our sanctions laws, but we're not even investigating that sort of low-hanging fruit. Those are instances that we should be enforcing. So we could be doing a heck of a lot more on enforcement and working with our allies to ensure that we are enforcing those sanctions that we placed on Russia.
I'm glad you mentioned also the disinformation campaigns, because I do want to talk to you about Disinfo Watch. Tell us more about your work there and the kind of disinformation that's going on in Canada and elsewhere.
Well, Tony, there's a heck of a lot of both Chinese, Russian, other authoritarian disinformation that is being injected into our information space in efforts to try and manipulate our understanding of the world around us and in efforts to divide us and further polarize us as a nation. So the work that we do at Watch is to keep an eye on what Russia is doing, what they're saying, what China is doing and saying in that information space. And what we try to do is expose some of those narratives that are targeting Canadians, our elected officials, issues that are important to us and certainly our interest. And we try to sort of analyze them, talk about why Russia, China, Iran might be targeting those issues. Perhaps it's individuals. And their objectives and goals. And the hope here is it's not, necessarily general public that's constantly coming to check out what we're doing, but to make sure that our elected officials, civil society organizations, and members of the media are aware of what those narratives look like, what they sound like, so that they don't fall prey to them. Because look, the information space that we have right now, as you know very well, is pretty murky. It's not always easy to navigate. And when these authoritarian regimes try to inject their narratives in there, it becomes even worse. So what we try to do is make it a little bit more clear and help the people like yourself who are trying to promote the truth and facts and clarity on a lot of these important issues that we face today.
Oh, and that you do that through Disinfo Watch? That's the vehicle that does this?
Well, we try to do it through Disinfo Watch, and I try to do it through whether it's writing columns for various different outlets or through interviews with like the one that you and I are conducting right now.
And we will continue this interview after a few short messages. Please stay with us.